The first thing the alien learned about humans was that one of them, a 14-year-old girl named Micah Okpik, would put down her phone to kill it. She didn't know that yet. Nobody on the gravel road outside Sela Station knew anything yet. The sun hung low over the ridge and refused to set the way it always refused to set in July, and the dogs at the edge of the settlement were barking at something none of the adults could see. Micah was arguing with her best friend Jessie about whether to walk to Tagak's party or beg a ride, and Uki was filming the dust on her sneakers. And Lena was 13 and pretending she was 16, and somewhere out past the inlet, in the long blue dusk that wasn't dusk, a thing that had crossed 200 light-years stepped out of a hunter's body and tried on his face. Her father had taught her to shoot a seal at 12. That was the thing the alien hadn't accounted for. It had studied the planet from orbit for what its kind called a slow breath, which in human time was about 9 years. It had watched the cities. It had watched the soldiers. It had watched the satellites and the missile silos and the long gray ships. And it had concluded, with the cold confidence its species reserved for arithmetic, that the dominant predators of this world lived in glass towers and could be killed by interrupting their food chain. So it landed where the food chain was thinnest, where the lights were sparsest, where the map said almost nothing. It landed near a place humans called Pang, a hamlet of 1,504 people sitting at the lip of a fjord on Baffin Island, and it stepped into the body of a researcher who had wandered too far from his cabin, and it began to walk south. It did not know that the children of Pang were hunters' children. It did not know what an Ulu was. The first one Micah saw was wearing a tajuk. A tajuk was the man who ran the boat rental at the marina, who had taught her how to gut an Arctic char when she was 7, who called her Little Bear and gave her gum that tasted like soap. He was standing at the end of the gravel road in his orange windbreaker, and his head was tilted 40 degrees to the left, and he was watching her the way a heron watches a fish. "Micah," he said. His mouth moved a half-second after the word came out. Like a dubbed movie, she felt it in her stomach before her brain caught up. Some animal part of her, some part that her father had built into her without ever sitting her down and explaining it, just looked at the angle of a tajuk's neck and knew. The way a caribou knows the wind, the way her grandmother used to know it would snow by the way the dogs slept. "Hi, Tajuk," she said. She kept her voice flat. She kept her hands where he could see them. She thought about the rifle in her father's shed, 300 meters behind her, and the distance between Atajak and herself, which was maybe 40. And she thought about how fast a heron could move. "Micah," Atajak said again. "Come here. My dad needs me," she said. "Sorry, Atajak." She turned and walked. She did not run. She did not look back. The skin between her shoulder blades felt the way it had felt the day she'd been 12, and her dad had whispered behind her, very calmly, "Walk, don't run. There's a bear behind us." And she had walked. She walked now, past the satellite dish that didn't work right, past the rusted blue truck, past the kid's bike with no chain. She walked until she was behind her father's shed, and then she folded down onto her knees and threw up onto the dirt. She was wiping her mouth when Jessie found her. "Tagak's mom said no ride," Jessie said. "We have to walk." "Hey, what's wrong with your face?" Micah looked at her best friend. Jessie had her phone out. Jessie always had her phone out. Jessie had eyeliner she'd stolen from her cousin, and a denim jacket, and a smile that said the world was a list of small good things you could check off. And Micah wanted to live in Jessie's face for the rest of her life and never come back out. "I just saw a Tajik," Micah said. "Okay, he wasn't a Tajik." Jessie lowered her phone. That was the moment, Micah would think later, when the four of them stopped being girls who liked horror movies and became girls who were in one. Jessie didn't ask her if she was sure. Jessie didn't say, "That's not funny." Jessie just lowered her phone and looked at her, and a small old thing passed between them that had been passed between Inuit girls and their best friends for 10,000 years on this coast. And it was, "Believe her. Get the others. Find a weapon. Uki and Lena are at the playground," Jessie said. "Go," Micah said. "I need to get something." The rifle was where her father kept it. So was the box of shells. So was the ulu her grandmother had given her on her 11th birthday, the one with the caribou bone handle, and the half-moon blade that had skinned more seals than Micah had years. She had hated that ulu when she got it. She had wanted a phone case with a hologram on it. Her grandmother had pressed the ulu into her hand and said, in Inuktitut, "This is yours now. This is what your great-grandmother used. You will know when you need it." And Micah had said thank you the way you say thank you to old people who give you weird gifts. And she had put it in the drawer. She put it in her jacket pocket now. She slung the rifle. She loaded 6. She took the box. When she came back out, a Tajik was at the end of her father's driveway. He was 20 meters closer than he should have been able to get. He was smiling. His mouth was opening too wide. There was something behind his teeth that was not teeth, something the color of wet bark, and his orange windbreaker was wet down the front in a pattern that was not from rain because it had not rained. "Micah," he said. "Come here, little bear." The thing inside a Tajik was learning her. It had heard her father call her that on the wind. It had heard a Tajik call her that on the wind. It was offering her the name the way a hunter offers bait, and it was not yet sophisticated enough to understand that bait given to a hunter's child is just a thing to aim at. She brought the rifle up. Her father had taught her, the shoulder, not the chest. The chest is where the muscle is. The shoulder is where the joint is. A wounded shoulder is a thing that cannot lift, cannot grip, cannot chase. Don't kill what you don't have to kill, Micah. Just make it so they can't follow. She put the shot through a Tajik's right shoulder. The thing inside a Tajik did not bleed. It opened. The shoulder flowered. There was no other word for it. The fabric of the windbreaker tore in 3 long petals, and something came out of the wound that was not arm and not blood, something segmented and dark and reaching, and it tasted the air with a long pale frond and turned its tasting toward her, and she saw, in the wet ruin of a Tajik's face, that the man she had known since she was 7 had been hollow for some unknowable number of hours. She put the second shot through the knee. For same reason, it went down. It did not stop coming. It crawled. It dragged itself forward on the ruined leg and the unflowered arm, and the tendril from its shoulder lashed across the gravel toward her boot, and she stepped back, and she said the prayer her grandmother had taught her without realizing she was saying it, and she pulled the ulu out of her jacket pocket. She did what her grandmother had shown her on 1,000 seals. She did it fast, and she did it without looking at his face. When she was done, the thing on the gravel had stopped moving, and Micah Akpik was kneeling beside what had been a Tajik, and her hands were shaking, and there was a sound coming out of her throat that wasn't crying but wasn't anything else either. She wiped the ulu on the grass. She wiped it again. She wiped it a 3rd time. She put it back in her jacket pocket. She picked up the rifle. She walked toward the playground, and she did not look back, and she promised Atajik under her breath that she would tell his sister he had been a good man. Uki was filming her own face when Micah got to the playground. "Look at this. Look at this. The light is literally perfect. I look like I'm in a Lana Del Rey video. Hello, this is my brand, Uki," Micah said. "Micah, you look like absolute hell. Are you crying? Is this about Tagak?" "Because I told you." "Uki, shut up." Something in Micah's voice did it. "Uki, shut up." Lena was on the swing. Jessie was standing very still by the slide, with her phone in her hand, screen down, the way Jessie held a phone when Jessie was scared. The light over Pang was the long blue light of the not dusk, and the dogs at the edge of town were not barking anymore, which was worse in a way that took Micah a second to place. Dogs that have stopped barking have either gotten used to the thing or been killed by it, and neither of those was a thing Micah wanted to be true. "There's something in a Tajik," Micah said. "I killed it. I think there are more." Lena, who was 13, who had been pretending she was 16 all summer, said, "Like a parasite. I don't know what it is. Like in The Thing. Lena, I don't know what it is." Uki was lifting her phone, filming. Uki put the phone down. "This is literally the biggest thing that's ever happened in this town, and I am not Uki." Uki lowered the phone, slowly. She kept it in her hand. "Okay," Uki said. Her voice was different, smaller. "Okay, Micah. What do we do?" That was the part Micah hadn't worked out on the walkover. She had worked out. Get the girls. She had worked out. Get a weapon for each of them. She had worked out, in some animal way that hadn't passed through the speaking part of her brain yet, that the satellite phones at the RCMP station were probably no good if the thing had taken whoever was answering the satellite phones, and that the float plane at the marina was probably no good if the thing had taken Atajak, who ran the marina, and that her father was somewhere out on the inlet on a boat and would not be back until the tide turned, which was hours. She had worked out that they were on their own. What she had not worked out was what 4 girls were supposed to do about that. "My grandmother," Lena said. "My grandmother said when she was little, the elders used to tell stories about Kalapiluit, things that took the shapes of people who were lost. They said you knew them because the heads were wrong, the way they sat on the neck. She said the old way to find them was to look at the shadow, because the shadow didn't always agree with the body." Uki was about to say something. Micah could feel her about to say, "That's just a story." Micah watched Uki not say it. Uki had been raised in Iqaluit and had moved to Pang 2 years ago, and had spent every one of those 2 years trying very hard to not be from Pang. And Micah watched her, in the long blue light, decide for the first time that maybe the old stories were not the embarrassing thing she had spent 2 years pretending they were. "Okay," Uki said. "Okay, we look at shadows, and we get more guns," Jesse said. "And we don't split up," Lena said. "And we find my dad," Micah said. "My dad will know what to do." They looked at each other. 4 girls in jean jackets and sneakers, and one beat-up rifle between them and an ulu in Micah's pocket that had been her great-grandmother's, and the long sun over Pang refusing to set, and somewhere out past the inlet a ship that none of them had seen coming. Micah thought, "We are going to die out here." Then she thought, "No, we are not." Then she thought about her grandmother's voice on the day she had pressed the ulu into Micah's hand. And she thought, "You will know when you need it." And she thought, "Grandmother, I needed it today. Tagak's party," Uki said. They all looked at her. "Think about it," Uki said. "Half the town is at Tagak's. If the thing is taking people, it's going to go where the people are. We need to get to Tagak's before it does, and we need to clear the road on the way." It was the smartest thing Uki had said all summer. "Tagak's," Micah said. They opened the rifle. They had 4 rounds left after what she had spent on a Tajuk. Micah counted them out loud, because counting out loud was a thing her father did, and she needed to be doing things her father did. 4, she said. 4 against how many, Jesse said. "I don't know. That's not a great ratio, Micah." "Jess, I know." Lena was looking at her own hands. She had picked up a piece of broken glass off the playground and was wrapping the end of it in a strip torn from her own sock, the way she had seen her uncle wrap a knife handle once, and her hands were not shaking. Micah watched them not shake. Lena was 13. Lena's hands should have been shaking. Lena's hands were the steadiest hands in the playground, and Micah filed that away, too, in the place where she was filing things to think about if any of them lived past the not dusk. "Okay," Micah said. "Okay. Listen, we walk. We don't run unless we see one. If we see one, we go for the shoulder, the knee, the throat. Not the chest. Never the chest. There's nothing in the chest. If you hear me yell down, T, you go down. If you hear me yell go, T, you go without me. Do you understand?" "No," Uki said. "Uki, no, I'm not leaving you, Micah. I'm not doing that. I'm not going to be the girl who runs. Uki, if I'm dead, I'm not coming back. There's no point in all of us being dead. I'm not doing it." Micah looked at her. Uki had her wrench in one hand and her phone in the other, and her chin set the way her chin set when she was about to lose an argument with her mother, which meant she was not about to lose an argument with anyone. "Okay," Micah said. "Okay, nobody runs without anybody." "Okay, nobody," Jesse said. "Nobody," Lena said. That was the deal. They shook on it, the 4 of them, in a playground that smelled like wet gravel in the sea, with the dogs at the edge of town not barking and the long blue light on every roof. And Micah thought, "If I die tonight, I want it written somewhere that this is who I died with." She thought it, and she did not say it, because saying it would have made Jesse cry, and Micah could survive almost anything that night except making Jesse cry. They walked the long way, because the short way went past the marina, and Micah did not want to walk past the marina. The long way took them past the dump, where the seagulls were not on the seagulls' usual rocks, and past the empty lot where someone had been building a garage for 2 years and had not finished, and past the back of the school, where Mr. Aliva, who taught science, was standing very still on the steps with his head tilted 40 degrees to the left. "Don't run," Micah said. "Micah, don't run. Walk." They walked. Mr. Aliva did not move. His shadow on the steps behind him fell the wrong way, against the angle of the sun, and Micah filed that away as something to tell Lena's grandmother if any of them lived to tell anything to anyone. They walked past Mr. Aliva without looking at him. Micah could feel him watching her. She could feel him deciding. She kept her hand on the ulu in her pocket and her finger off the trigger of the rifle, because her father had told her, "Don't put your finger on the trigger until you know what you're shooting. A scared finger kills the wrong thing." When they were 2 blocks past the school, Jesse said very quietly, "They learn," Micah said. "I shot Atajuk, the one in Atajuk. The next one knows." "That's not great," Uki said. "No. That's a very not great thing for them to be doing, Micah." "I know, Uki." Tagak's house was at the top of the hill, where the road curved up past the water tower. The lights were on. The music was on. There were maybe 40 people inside, half of them kids Micah's age, and half of them parents who'd come along, because in Pang the parents came along, and Micah could hear, From the bottom of the hill, the bass line of a song that had been popular when Tagak's mother was in high school. She could also hear somewhere behind them on the road the sound of feet on gravel. More than one set. Move, she said. They moved. Halfway up the hill, the dogs at the edge of town finally started barking again. All at once, in the way dogs bark when something the dogs do not have a word for has crossed a line the dogs do have a word for. And Uki, who was the slowest runner, said, "Oh no, oh no, oh," under her breath like a prayer, and Lena, who was the smallest, grabbed Micah's hand without asking and held it, and Jessie looked back over her shoulder and stopped. Micah. Micah looked back. There were 6 of them on the road. Atajak's brother, the 2 boys from the co-op, Mrs. Pivik, who ran the daycare. The Arshemp officer, Micah, didn't know the name of the new one from down south, and Micah's father. Micah's father was at the front. He was wearing his green jacket. He was wearing his cap. His hands were at his sides. His head was on his neck the right way. From this distance, in the long blue light, with the wind in her face and the dogs barking and her heart in her ears, he looked like her father. He looked exactly like her father. "Micah," her father called. His voice was her father's voice. "Micah, baby, come here. I need you to come here. Whatever you saw, baby, it's okay. Come to Dad." Lena's hand tightened in Micah's hand. "Don't," Lena whispered. "I'm not," Micah said. "His shadow," Lena said. "Micah, look at his shadow." Micah did not want to look at his shadow. She looked at his shadow. The sun was in the west, low, and her father's shadow on the gravel should have been long and to the east, but it was not. It was short. It was wrong. It was pooled at his feet like spilled oil, and it did not move when he moved, and Micah felt something break inside her chest in a way that did not make a sound, because the thing that had taken her father had not bothered to learn shadows yet, or it had, and it was offering her this, offering her the version of her father that would be easiest for her to come to. She did not know which was worse. She brought the rifle up. "Micah," her father said. "Micah, baby, no. You're not my dad," she said. Her voice did not shake. She did not let it. "Baby, my dad would know I knew." She held the shot for a half second. She held it because she wanted to be wrong. She held it because some 12-year-old part of her was still waiting for her father to laugh and say, "Good, you caught it. That's my little bear." She held it because, even with the wrong shadow at his feet, the face on that body was the face that had taught her to shoot, and shooting it felt like undoing the lesson. Then she shot the man on his left, the boy from the co-op. She shot the shoulder, not the chest. He flowered. The others ran at her. What happened next happened in less time than it takes to describe. Jessie, who Micah had spent her whole life thinking of as the soft one, the one who was scared of mice, picked up a length of pipe from the side of the road and broke the kneecap of Mrs. Pivik with it. Lena, who was 13, who weighed maybe 90 pounds soaking wet, threw a rock the size of her fist and caught the RCMT officer in the throat. Uki, who had not stopped filming, who had her phone in one hand the entire time, ran toward Atajak's brother and slid in the gravel like she was stealing second base and took out his ankle with a wrench she'd grabbed from somewhere Micah had not seen her grab it from, and Micah put 2 more rounds into the boy on the gravel and 1 round into the second boy from the co-op. And the thing wearing her father stopped walking and tilted its head 40 degrees to the left and said, in her father's voice, "Interesting." That was when Micah knew it was learning. That was when Micah knew it was going to be a long night. They got inside Tagak's house. They got inside because Tagak's mother opened the door, and because Tagak's mother had been a nurse in Iqaluit for 20 years before she'd come back to Pang to raise her son, and because Tagak's mother took one look at the four girls on her stoop, Micah with the rifle, Jessie with the pipe, Uki with the wrench, Lena with her hand bleeding from the rock, and said, get in, what is it, get in tea, and locked the door behind them, Micah told her. Tagak's mother did not laugh. Tagak's mother did not say, "That's impossible." Tagak's mother had grown up listening to her own grandmother tell stories about things that wore the wrong heads. And Tagak's mother had also seen, in 20 years of nursing in Iqaluit, enough impossible things become possible to know better than to laugh. "Phones?" Tagak's mother said. "The thing took the cell tower guy this morning," Uki said. "I just figured it out. He's been weird all day. I posted about it. Everyone's tower's been out for like 6 hours. Radio? They got the Orcs," Jessie said. "Float plane? They got a Tajuk." Tagak's mother nodded once. It was the nod of a woman doing math she did not enjoy doing. "Okay," she said. "Okay, we get the elders into the basement. We get the kids into the basement. The hunters stay up here. How many shells do you have, Micah?" 11. "Get the rifles out of the gun safe in my bedroom. Get all of them." "Tagak, get the harpoons out of the shed. Mom, get the harpoons, Tagak. Tagak got the harpoons. There is a thing that happens in Pang on the days when the elders say it is going to happen, where everyone in town drops what they are doing and goes to the water and helps with the whale. It does not happen often. It used to happen more. But when it happens fast. And it happens with no instructions, because the instructions have been in the bones of the town for 1,000 years, and they do not need to be said. Old men appear with ropes. Young men appear with knives. Women appear with buckets and tarps and pots. And the children appear with smaller buckets. And the dogs appear because the dogs always know, and within 10 minutes of the call going out, the whale is being brought in. And within an hour, it is being cut. And within a day, it is being eaten and stored and shared. And nobody in the town has had to be told what to do at any point, because it is a thing the town knows. That is what happened at Tagak's house. Nobody told the hunters to load. The hunters loaded. Nobody told the women to move the children to the basement. The women moved the children to the basement. Nobody told old Joanazzi, who was 81 and had not held a rifle in 15 years, to take up a position by the kitchen window with the .22 he had used to hunt his first ptarmigan in 1958. But old Joanazzi took up the position. Nobody told Jesse's mother to start tearing a sheet into bandages, but Jesse's mother started tearing a sheet into bandages. Nobody told Uki's little brother to bring out the box of road flares his father kept in the shed for emergencies, but Uki's little brother brought out the flares. Micah watched it happen. She watched the town she had spent 14 years thinking was small become a thing the size of every generation that had ever lived on this coast, and she thought, the alien doesn't know about this. The alien picked here because the maps were empty. The alien doesn't know what's in a Pang house, she thought. Good Tagak came up beside her at the window with the harpoons in his arms. He set them down against the wall and looked at her and did not say anything for a moment. Tagak was 16. Tagak was the boy Micah had been hoping to dance with or stand next to or be looked at by that night. Tagak had hair that fell across one eye and a smile that he kept halfway hidden, and Micah had spent the better part of 2 weeks rehearsing what she would say when he opened the door to her at his party, and now she was at his party, and what she said was, "There's something in my dad." Tagak looked at her. The half-smile was gone. Whatever boy he had been at 3 in the afternoon was not the boy at the window. "I'm sorry, Micah," he said. "I know. Are you going to be okay?" She thought about it. She thought about lying. She did not lie. "No," she said, "not for a long time, but I'm going to be alive, and so are you. And we're going to get the rest of these people through the night." He nodded once. He picked up one of the harpoons. He put it in her hand without asking if she wanted it, because asking would have been an insult, because in Pang you do not ask a hunter's daughter if she wants a harpoon. You put the harpoon in her hand. She took it. She felt the weight of it. It was a real harpoon, not a tourist one. The head was steel, and the line was good cord, and the haft had been rewrapped that spring with electrical tape, because that was what you had in Pang. She set it against the wall by her foot. "Tagak," she said. "Yeah, if I don't come back inside this house tonight, you're coming back inside this house. If I don't, Micah. If I don't, Tagak." He looked at her. "Tell my mom I love her," she said. "Tell her I'm sorry I didn't call her on Sunday." He nodded. He did not say, "I will." Because saying "I will" would have meant agreeing that there was a world in which she did not come back, and he was not going to agree to that. He just nodded. She understood the nod. The nod was as good as anything anyone said in Pang. They came at midnight, except there was no midnight because the sun was still up. They came up the hill in a line of about 20. Some of them were still wearing the faces of the people Micah had known her whole life. The mailman, the teacher's aide, the woman who ran the bakery, her father at the front, still in the green jacket, still with his hands at his sides. The thing wearing her father stopped at the bottom of the driveway. "Micah," it called. "Micah, the rest of the town is hurt. We need you to come down. We need a girl who can shoot." The voice was so close to her father's that Micah felt her knees go. Tagak's mother put a hand on Micah's shoulder. "Don't answer it," Tagak's mother said. "Don't say his name out loud. Names are a road in. My grandmother said so. Don't give it the road." Micah did not answer. She raises the rifle. She thought, "Dad, I'm sorry, Dad. I'm sorry, Dad. I'm sorry. T." And she did not shoot her father. She shot the woman next to him. She shot the shoulder. The shoulder flowered, the way a Tajak's had flowered, and the thing inside the woman, who had been the woman who ran the bakery, came out, and Tagak's mother, beside Micah, said one word in Inuktitut under her breath that meant, Now, 10 the windows of Tagak's house bristled all at once with the barrels of every rifle in the building, and the harpoons of every hunter old enough to throw one, and the front yard of Tagak's house became, for the next 11 minutes, the loudest piece of ground on Baffin Island. The hunters did not aim for the chest. Maka had told them. Tagak's mother had told them. The hunters aimed for the joints. They cut the things down at the knees and the shoulders and the wrists. And the things came apart and came on, and the hunters reloaded. And old Joannazy, by the kitchen window, with the .22 from 1958, picked off a thing that was halfway up the porch by putting a round through the place where its eye would have been, if it had remembered to put an eye there. The thing wearing Micah's father did not come up the driveway. It stood at the bottom. It watched. It tilted its head 40 degrees to the left and back to center and 40 degrees to the right, the way a thing learns, and Micah could see it doing the math, and she could see it deciding that this house was harder than it had looked from orbit. It turned. It walked back down the hill. It left the others to come up the driveway and die. That was when Micah put the rifle down and picked up the harpoon from the rack by the door. "Micah," Jesse said, "what are you doing?" "It's going to learn," Micah said. "If I let it go, it's going to learn, and the next house is going to be harder for the next girl. I'm going to make sure it doesn't get the chance. Micah, Jess, take the rifle." Jesse took the rifle. "Uki," Micah said, "film me." Uki, for the first time in the entire 2 years Micah had known her, did not raise her phone. "Micah," Uki said. "No. Yes, Uki, film me. If I die out there, I need somebody to see what killed me so the next town knows. Film me. Stand at the window and film me. Do not lower the phone until I am back inside this house, or until the sun goes down, and the sun is not going to go down. So do not lower the phone until I am back inside this house. Do you understand?" "Yes," Uki said. Her voice was very small. "Good," Micah said. She opened the door. What the alien did not know about humans was this. It did not know that a human child can carry, on her person, the bone of a great-grandmother she has never met. It did not know that the bone remembers. It did not know that a girl walking down a gravel driveway at midnight with a harpoon in one hand and an ulu in her pocket and a phone behind her filming and 3 best friends watching her go was carrying, with her, every grandmother who had ever pressed a half-moon blade into the hand of a small girl and said, "You will know." It did not know what it had landed in. It did not know that the maps were not empty. It thought it had found a thin place. It had found a place where the line went all the way down to the bottom of the world. It had found a place where, when the cell towers went out, and the radios went dead, and the float planes sat empty at the marina, the people did not panic, because the people had been here before the cell towers and the radios and the float planes, and the people had instructions in their bones for nights when the sun would not go down, and the wrong heads came over the hill. Micah walked down the driveway. The thing wearing her father turned to face her at the bottom. "Little Bear," it said. She did not answer. "Names are a road in. She would not give it the road." "Little Bear, you don't have to do this." She kept walking. "Little Bear, your dad loves you. Your dad would want you to come home." She kept walking. She let the harpoon hang in her right hand. She let the ulu stay in her pocket. Her great-grandmother's ulu, the one with the bone handle. She felt her grandmother's voice in her ribs. "You will know when you need it." She was 10 feet from the thing. "Micah," it said, in her father's voice, cracking the way her father's voice cracked when he was tired. "Micah, baby." "Please," she stopped. She looked at its feet. The shadow was still wrong. Pooled at the feet. Not east, not west. Just under, like spilled oil. "My dad is on the water," she said quietly in Inuktitut, because she did not want it to understand, and she did not need it to understand. "My dad is on the water, and he is coming home, and he is going to walk into a town that is still here, because I am going to leave him a town." She did not bring the harpoon up the way a soldier brings a rifle up. She brought it up the way her father had taught her, the way his father had taught him, the way the men of Pang had been bringing harpoons up since before the maps were drawn. Low, smooth, from the hip. The throw that goes through the flow. The throw that does not miss, because it has not missed in 800 years. She put it through the place where the shadow was wrong. The thing wearing her father came apart along seams the human body did not have. There was a sound. It was not a human sound. It was a sound the size of the empty places between stars, and it lasted as long as it took the thing inside her father to understand that it had been wrong about the planet, wrong about the predators, wrong about the maps, and wrong, in a way it would not have time to communicate to anyone about the small, warm bodies of girls in jean jackets. Her father's body slumped onto the gravel. It was just her father's body. It had been her father's body the whole time. The thing inside was gone, or going, or had never been her father at all. And Micah knelt beside what was left and put her hand on his cheek, and the cheek was already cold, but she put her hand there anyway, and she said, in Inuktitut, "I'm sorry, Dad. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. The dogs at the edge of town started barking again. This time they were barking the way dogs bark when a familiar boat comes around the point of the inlet. Micah looked up. Down by the marina, in the long blue light that was not dusk and would not be dusk for another 6 weeks, her father's boat was coming around the headland. Her actual father. The one who had been on the water. The one who had not been here. The one the thing had stolen the face of, and not the soul of, because the soul of had been 3 miles offshore pulling up an Arctic char. He saw her on the hill. He raised one hand. She raised one hand back. She did not let him see her cry. She would let him see her cry later, in the kitchen, in his arms, when the sun finally went down in August. She would let him see her cry then. For now, she stood up. She wiped the ulu on the grass. She wiped it again. She wiped it a third time. She put it back in her jacket pocket. She picked up the rifle Jesse handed her at the door. She walked back into Tagak's house, where 40 people were alive who had not been guaranteed to be alive, and she did not say anything, because there was nothing to say that the town did not already know. Uki lowered the phone. "I got it," Uki said. Her voice was thick. "I got all of it. Micah, I got all of it." "Good," Micah said. "Send it to the south. Send it to every town. Send it so the next girl knows." Then she sat down on Tagak's couch, between Jesse and Lena, and she put her head on Jesse's shoulder, and Jesse put her arm around her, and Lena, who was 13, who had pretended she was 16 all summer, and would never have to pretend again, took Micah's hand and held it. Outside, the sun did not set. Inside, in a hamlet of 1,504 people 45 kilometers from the Arctic Circle, on a planet that a thing from 200 light years away had thought was thin at the top, 4 girls in jean jackets had been the line. The line had held. The line had always held. The maps had never been empty.